I'm watching Limp Bizkit front row with our management, with Nick Adler, the manager of our band. And I don't know what's going on. I'm just watching the show. And all of a sudden I see out of the toilet, I see Lynn's head. And then I see his chest with a big giant Snot sticker. And then I see him, he's butt fucking naked. A dick out, flying 20,000 people. He hasn't got a bit of clothes on.
Hey, welcome to another episode of 2020. My name's Cory Peza. I'm here, as always, with Siobhán Cronin and Benny Goodman. What's going on, guys?
Hey, not much.
So, we talk a lot about, like, rock and roll stories, and I feel like every other one up to this point pales in comparison to what we hear on this episode.
With our guest, Mikey Doling.
And talking about the legendary Lynn Strait. If you don't know who he was, it's probably because you weren't exposed to that period of time in the 90s where a band Snot ruled the airways of MTV and the radio. But Lynn Strait was a legendary guy, but he was a flash in the pan. But Mikey Doling, our guest, was the guitar player in that band, along with Soulfly and Channel Zero. And he's coming out with a new band, Woyote, that you guys need to stay tuned for.
Right, and he gets into a lot of the stories of the formation of Snot and the writing process, going into the studio, some really crazy concert stories. I don't want to give too much away, but he had us laughing.
But also, I think that he said that Shannon Larkin, who we also had on before, seems to be the key to a lot of these stories, and he kind of threw the gauntlet down. So if Shannon's listening, I think you need to come back on with Mikey at his request so that you guys can kind of both let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, but without further ado, great episode, Mikey Doling. Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Benny Goodman, and you are listening to 2020, a show about a year ago. Maybe it's 2 years ago. Maybe if we're lucky, it's 3 years ago, because we're still in cyberspace somewhere and you're listening. My name is, again, Benny Goodman, to reiterate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, 2020-d.com. I'm here with my cohorts, my compatriots, my fellow 18-plussers that could go to life in jail with me, Sebastian, and all the things that we're doing down on Skid Row. Siobhán Cronin.
Hey, how's it going, Ben?
Good. How about yourself, Siobhán?
Pretty good.
And then,
Good
of course, last but not least, as far as my cohorts are concerned, Cory Peza.
What's going on? I'm excited. I've been buried in mixes all day, so this is a nice welcome break.
I dropped a bunch of notes on Cory, so he's been struggling, I'm sure.
And then I am so happy to say that it's come full circle. The gentleman that we have on today is actually what was my first interview with any quote-unquote famous touring rock guy. I have a picture of me and him, I think from 1997 on my wall over there, 1998 or something. He's played with the legendary Snot. He has toured the world with Soulfly. He has, and of course, while doing that, toured with bands like Pantera. And he plays in a fantastic band, Channel Zero, and has a new band that he's going to tell us all about, which I listened to, which, bro, it sounds like the best of Alice in Chains. There's a little bit of that like power groove Pantera thing going on.
Fucking
so I just gotta tell you,
Nice.
when I was like vacuuming this morning, I was doing it with a little bit of a step.
Yeah, man, Woyote. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Mikey Doling.
Hey, what's happening? All right.
Woo!
Hi, guys.
Welcome. Hey.
Thank you. I'm 3 hours behind you, and I see you have a glass of wine over there.
Oh, yep. This is my signature.
It's a little bit early for me to have wine, but good on you.
Well, listen, if you change your mind, you're in good company.
I may have to. I might have to do that. Cool.
Siobhán's always down to antique.
It makes this show much more tolerable, too. I can promise you that.
And I see you guys are all in like recording studios. You all have guitars around you. I see some amplifiers.
Figured out we're in a band. This is how we're surviving. We had to pivot.
I got some guitars around me too. I got this one. I got my Beretta over there. I got my Adrian Smith Jackson Strat over there. I got my
Adrian Smith Iron Maiden shirt on.
There you go, man. Right
representing.
Hell yeah.
So let's jump right on in, dude. Like,
sure.
What's been going on with you? Obviously, 2020 was a little. So you figured it out. We're in a band called Lost Symphony. Siobhán also plays in a band called Starset. And
I know about Star Set. I really
they're
like
kind
Star
of a
Set.
big deal. She's the only reason this show has any credibility.
Yeah.
Congrats, that's amazing. You guys are killer.
Oh, thank
really
you.
like
Oh,
it.
thank
2
you. I
billion
appreciate
streams
that.
according to the Forbes.com. But you have been around for a while, just kicking ass and taking names in the metal industry. What makes you tick? How was last year? Because I know for a lot of my friends that were touring, it was like, oh, we're going to do something awesome. And then nothing.
I mean, we were going to do something awesome too. My band Channel Zero, we had an entire summer booked all the way into the fall. We were ready to rock, man. And we had festivals like Grass Pop and Alcatraz. I mean, actually it was Alcatraz and Hellfest. We had a lot of festivals.
No
booked.
big deal.
Some pretty cool stuff. Yeah. We had to cancel all that shit, man. It was a bummer for everybody, for all the bands out there.
So how'd you manage that? What did you do to keep yourself occupied?
Well, I actually wrote a new album, Woyote. I formed and started a new band with Aaron Nordstrom, the singer for Gemini Syndrome.
Oh yeah, we toured with them a couple of years ago.
Killer.
Of course you did.
Well, he's a really good friend of mine. I produced his first record, actually Gemini's first album, and
That's awesome.
Since then we've been real close buddies, and we always wanted to do something together. And we decided to go ahead and do that and put some music together and collaborate. And it came out killer.
That's taking advantage of the situation, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. We wrote, I guess we got like 13 songs.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
So
That's
as far as
amazing.
inspiration is concerned, like I know you've done a lot of different things as far as going from really, really heavy rock. Like when I listen to Woyote, is that how you pronounce it? So I get it right. I'm like,
yeah, it's Woyote.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
I don't want to call someone's band by the wrong name. I'm like sitting there going, have you
Gotcha.
seen Prong? No, dude. Primus is up next. But so you sent me 2 tunes. I think it was like Digital Dream and Atlas, I want to say, which my stoner brain is not very good. So the fact that I remember
That's
it means
them.
good marketing, gentlemen.
Good job.
But I listened to it and I feel like, one, it has the power groove, which so many heavy bands are lacking now. Like they're taking that double bass, which there is some double bass, but it's not like ridiculous Gene Holgan shit. It's double bass that should be in a power groove band. But the heaviness is in the intensity of the riffs, and that
Absolutely.
allows your vocalist to sing.
Yep.
And when the screams come in, when there are yelling or screaming, it's a dynamic thing. It's not like my mom's going to be angry that I'm playing it in the other room. Is there a reason? Where does that all come from, Mikey?
Well, honestly, when I started the project, I literally was listening to Alice in Chains and Pantera. And I was like, man, we need to fuse this style together.
Good job.
And that's kind of what I did, man. I mean, I just did a lot of listening, and picked up the guitar, and that's what came out. And fortunately, Aaron, man, his harmonies, they're real dark, and Alice in Chains has that dark vibe.
Mhm.
Not that it's the same as Alice in Chains or even is a rip-off.
No, but it's
or anything.
reminiscent in the same way that Alice in Chains is heavy, because Lane and Jerry had such great voices, and they didn't have to
Right.
be heavy singers for the heaviness of the riffs. And if you even listen to the guitar tone, it's not that heavy either. It's heavy in the bombast and the intensity of the riffs and the way that it grooves hard.
Right. I wasn't going for the full metal thing. I mean, I was trying to keep it pretty heavy rock. And I believe a lot of tone. I mean, if you guys record music, a lot of the tone comes from these, from your hands.
Say it every single
we
time.
talk about
People-
this all the time.
I have
Yeah.
170 guitars, and I keep telling people I'm not getting any better. There's not one magic thing. It's your hand.
It really is the way you lay it in there, right? And I was really depending on that. I would back down the game just a little bit on purpose, just to be able to have the dynamics, when you record. And that's kind of how it came out, man. If you listen to it, like I'll be playing some heavy stuff and go into something kind of a little bit cleaner, and that's just me lightening up on it. And I think that's the way they used to do it in the old days, And the music itself kind of came out like that, a little bit retro, I think.
Yeah, I got to check it out.
So-
I mean, the bands you're describing and the influences are basically right up my wheelhouse. It's basically
All
all,
four of them,
all I
too.
listen
Yeah,
to.
I'll go ahead and forward them a couple songs,
Yeah.
and I'll send you a third one. I got another one I just finished this weekend. We're working with the producer Chris Collier Do you know Chris? Have you heard of him?
That name sounds familiar.
I feel like it's familiar, but everyone.
He's killer. He did like the last Prong record. He just finished the new Korn album.
I thought it was Prone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Prone. Yeah, he's Prone good. But yeah, he's killer. And he's kind of got this new school approach. The way he
What
writes.
does that mean? Tell us guitar players what that means. What does a new school approach mean?
I shouldn't say new school approach. We recorded this record at his house. We weren't in some big giant studio with a drum room.
How do you know that you're not just the dinosaur living in the new school?
I could be. I probably am.
That's why I feel
gray hair.
Well, because I'm saying, because you say that, but like there are kids that are alive that have never done anything but record in basements. Talk to Billie Eilish. I don't think she had been in a real recording studio.
Right.
Meanwhile, like you're saying the new school way, but it's like, is that the new school way or is that just the new way?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I love going in a big drum room with a big console. Don't get me wrong, but with the COVID and studios are actually kind of dying off. To walk in with this dude and he just programs the drums right there, what I want to hear, and they sound fucking real as hell.
It has no personality as a person, though, right? The drums don't talk back at you.
They do. They yell at me a little bit in my head.
Then what's the point of
They're
programming?
Like, dude,
them?
what the fuck?
No, but it's amazing that you can.
None of the crash. It's on the ride, man.
So how was that experience, though? Going from the bigger studios to doing it in a more stripped down way.
God, there's pros and cons. I really like just sitting in front of the console, and I know a lot of musicians would kick my ass for this. Like, oh, that's bullshit, man. But I like sitting in front of the console and just combing it out and just keep combing it. I'm not feeling that. Let me try this, try that. All right, strip that.
Is that why all your records cost so much money?
No, it's actually cheaper. It's actually much cheaper. Yeah, because you don't have the big drum room and all that, and it's more comfortable, and you can go take a lunch. You're not paying hourly rate. You're at somebody's house.
I thought you were talking about sitting in the giant consoles.
Which one?
Like in the mixing room, right?
Oh yeah, in the mixing. Yeah,
well, back in the old days, it was really fucking expensive. Like when I did the Snot record, we did that. I mean, it's 20 years ago.
Longview Farm Studios in North Brookfield, Massachusetts.
Yeah, brother, that was $200K. Sitting in that place recording.
$1,500 a day.
Yeah,
you fed
exactly.
your ass. They totally screened all your calls. There was there's a Cat Stevens steam room.
There was
a room for Keith Richards that didn't have any windows, but it had opaque lights that appeared to be windows, but he had specifically requested no sunlight.
Dude, I know the room well. Yes.
Right. So, and they had horses. So, like, I remember one time I got high in, like, the barn, and they said, listen, we don't care if you get high, but don't get our horses high.
Wait a minute. You were at that studio, Longview?
Not only did I record my first record there, I actually had moonlit there while Cold Chamber, Seven Dust, a lot of bands were there. And in fact, the guy that fixed the headstock on one of my Gibsons played banjo on your Snot record.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think we had that conversation before. Yeah, there's a stable. Sorry, we got off subject from the other record, but this
welcome
record,
to our show.
No. This is.
Let's go
classic.
back to 96 when we did that record. The whole entire band lived in the studio, and just under the studio, there's a stable with horses in it. And then under that, there's a house. So it's just the craziest place. Oh, no, excuse me.
Burned down twice. It's also haunted.
The house is actually next door. That would be crazy if there was horses on the roof.
Yeah,
of the house.
There's a house and then there's a giant barn, and they're both separate studios. The house has the Trident board that like recorded some Queen records and all that. Which, by the way, as a side note, my first recording experience ever, I went with my jazz band because apparently, out of 20 years of doing jazz band, our high school jazz instructor thought that we were so good, he convinced the school to put us at Longview, and apparently it was the time that Rainbow was recording there. And I remember sitting in the console room, and I loved like Deep Purple and all that, like as a kid, thinking to myself, that dude looks like Richie Blackmore. And like they said that he just worked there or whatever. This
and
guy's
it was.
and I found out this year from, I think it was the drummer from Rainbow, was like, no, we were recording. That was absolutely Richie. And I remember your jazz.
That's band. Fucking crazy. And how about that Neve console that's in there? I mean, that thing's insane. See, there we go. All right. Yeah. I kind of like take away everything I said 10 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago. and see, I missed that side too, for recording. That console is insane, man. But
my husband was just talking about this. No,
What's
because
that?
now they have all the. No, I was saying my husband was just talking about that exact console because now you can get all these plugins and it's like, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
as
it's not the same as
the
saying
original.
all this
yeah, the
there.
big tube and the tubes and the compression and all that stuff, and I believe they even have like mastering itself kind of in the console. Not the end mastering, but some, just kind of compresses the whole thing. And
And for $15, you could send your tracks, and they will master them for you by putting a sonic maximizer.
Yeah, a computer will do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that recording process at Longview and what that was like?
Oh man,
That's
that was so good. Sure, I'd love to.
What an amazing studio.
You know what? Let me go grab the actual guitar that I recorded that
Please
record
do.
with.
Please.
I'll be back in seconds.
Hell yeah.
Okay, one second.
So first and foremost, can you see that?
Yes.
Siobhán, can you see that?
She's
All right.
Yeah, I know.
Look at you, little kid.
That's you and me. Hold on, look at the guitar I'm holding. And then
Which guitar is that?
It's a PV Predator, but I brought it to
Oh, wow.
Ozfest and had every single member of every single band sign it. But when you and I did this, it wasn't even signed. That's my first guitar.
So yeah,
And
that's
is
my
that
first
on the-
interview
is
ever.
Is that on the Snot bus?
That's on the Soulfly bus. I want to say it was 98. That was my first real
99.
interview.
so if
99.
anyone's just listening, make sure you check out the YouTube feed. There's it's a pretty great picture.
Actually, that's 2000. Because Soulfly headlined the second stage Ozfest 2000.
So maybe that was a no, but that wasn't Ozfest. It was at the Palladium in Worcester, and I because that guitar's from Ozfest '99, so it's before that.
Palladium in Worcester.
Yeah,
Love
you guys did that was the first Soulfly tour I think you did.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that place.
And in fact, I was supposed to do an interview with Max, and I came up to the side of the bus, and they're like, "Are you kidding, kid? There's no way you're talking to Max Cavalera.
No,
you could talk to Mikey."
I'm like,
And you
sure,
were
I'll
so
come
nice
down.
to me.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Hey, look at this thing.
Is that the one you got
Oh,
back?
wow.
That
Yes.
was like all fucked up?
Yes.
Tell everyone the story.
Sure, I'll tell you the story. This thing's beautiful, huh?
Oh my god.
Tune into the YouTube guys.
Right,
so
we
you can
should
see
tell the
this
listeners what
guitar
they're looking
porn.
at for anyone
it's a
that's not
beautiful,
watching.
beautiful, sexy Gibson Les Paul that unless you like guitars, you just don't truly understand how much
Well, I'll
real
tell you
guitar
that-
people are salivating.
I'll tell you a story about this one. Take a look again. It's just a beautiful, beautiful guitar. I recorded Get Some with this guitar, Snot Get Some, in 96. And it's the only guitar I used on the album. So it's every song, every note of Get Some that I played. And Sonny had a black one. He played his parts.
Sonny
black.
Mayo. for
Yes,
everyone
Sonny
that does
Mayo
not
played it
know.
on them. Yeah. How we got these guitars was when we signed back in the old days. When you signed to a record company, there was actually money. You know,
Is that what they call it
Unlike
out
the
in Gen
current,
Pop?
yeah.
Yeah, they took us out to dinner. They bought us clothes. I'm not kidding. Man, we signed to Geffen Records, the same team that signed Guns N' Roses, Nirvana, White
God.
Zombie. They signed us, and they spoiled the fuck out of us. And they took us to Guitar Center because they had this really shitty little beat up Ibanez with like stickers all over it, little skater kid guitar. I mean, and they took us to Guitar Center and said, pick any guitar you want off the wall. Oh, look, hey, hi, Jax.
Oh, hi.
Oh my God. Look at that hair.
Guest
I love
star.
when the kids make a cameo. Wow, that's amazing hair.
buddy.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
See you later, bro.
He bailed.
Yeah.
You just got 2020 by your own kid.
Oh yeah. Oh, he 2020s me all day. He gets embarrassed by me at school all the time.
What's his name?
Jax?
And how old is he?
Oh, cute.
He's 8. He'll be 9 in October, so he's 8.5.
Nice.
He's
so
so
cute.
cool. Now he's playing
Very
the-
good reason to interrupt the guitar porn, but back to the Gibson Les Paul.
Okay, so Geffen bought us these guitars. We recorded Get Some with that guitar. And then I played, if you look at any old Snot footage, that's the guitar I'm playing live. And the Ozfest stuff or any of the touring we were doing. Anyway, I played that guitar so much and threw it across the stage. Back in the old days, we were a little more wild than we are these days. There was beer and blood on it. we'd throw it across the stage and neck
You
would
didn't just
snap.
mess with your guitar player's Kemper and go like, haha, his mids are going to be too much today.
Not back then. Anyway, so fast forward to like 2000, I guess it was, 2002 or 3. You know, the guitar had been dead. And there's a club in Santa Barbara called the Velvet Jones. And my buddy Craig owns the Velvet Jones. Many bands have played there over the years. It was like the spot, any band going on tour through Santa Barbara, they played there. It's a club that holds like 600, something like that. So one night I'm in there drinking shots of Jaeger with them, getting way too smashed. He's like, hey man, I actually need something of yours to hang on the wall because your Snot's from Santa Barbara. I'm like, cool. So I gave him that guitar because it just didn't work anymore. It was just destroyed. And it sat on that wall for about 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 18 years.
Wow.
Right there over the bar. Every band that came through, that guitar was there getting the energy off it, you know, and
Nice.
feeling it. And I guess it was 2019, they finally closed the doors on the place.
Sorry.
After so many years. It was 20 years that place was there. And I think he was just moving on. He just had enough, 20 years of rock bands. And
Well, also watching the scene completely go from amazing to like fighting tooth and nail just to stay alive.
kind of, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Anyway, so I didn't think nothing of it. I just heard that they shut down. So I was in Santa Barbara, like right before COVID hit, late 2019. And I contacted him because he's my buddy, and I hadn't seen the guitar in years. I forgot about it. That thing is gone. It was toast. I was sitting on the wall just warping. It's a beach town. I'm sure it's just trash. And so we're eating sushi and we're drinking some sake. We're having a great time. He's like, hey, man, let's go to the parking lot, on our way out. I'm like, okay. So we go out there and he takes me to his car and pops the trunk, pulls out a case and opens it. And it's this guitar completely.
Oh, wow.
He refurbished it. It's like new again. Yeah.
Wow. It looks amazing.
Yeah. It's in great shape, man. It's like new.
I really wish all of my come to the parking lot stories ended with a guitar.
Right.
Especially something so sentimental,
Yeah.
That's an amazing, amazing gift. Like, holy crap, right?
Yeah, I'm literally teared up.
And one thing I always say, so I have a show called The Neurotic Guitarist on YouTube. And I always say that guitars that are beat up, they are like animals that you adopt. They work harder for your tone for you. And like my guitars where I've had like the broken headstocks and all that, where people say like, oh yeah, they sound better. To me, my experience, they do.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
So, Mikey, before we go on from that, that's an amazing story. But I come from a totally different world. I'm a classical violinist. I obviously play in rock bands and have gotten into sort of the metal scene. But I'm curious to hear about how you got into the music that you do and some of your background, like growing up. Like, how did you end up in this genre? How did you end up as a guitar player? Like, what were some of your influences growing up? Well,
when I was, I guess, 14 years old, back in way early 80s, I'm a pretty old dude nowadays. I used to hang out at this skate shop back in the old days when you had the big wide skateboards with the big wheels, But we still skated pools and stuff back then, but it was like late 70s, early 80s skater style. It was cool. It was called Bates Skates on Palm Canyon in Palm Springs.
Tony Hawk shit.
Even way before Tony Hawk. I'm sure.
Not the video game, the real guy.
Yeah, it's old school. So I was hanging out with older kids. I was 14 and all the other kids were like 19 and 18. And, but I was cool back then. I was a little shithead, And Black Flag came to town. And they were playing
Henry Rollins.
No, it was Des Cardina. It was pre-Henry.
Oh, Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't do my math. Sorry.
No. It was old school, like Des Cardina.
That's like old school.
Yeah, it was, man. It was Chuck and Robo, and it was the real deal. Old
you
school.
mean the stuff that you see in the documentaries?
They pulled up in a van that had a car smashed in the side of it, so they couldn't even open the door That was Black Flag.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then to pull the gear out of the back. That's the Black Flag I saw. Anyway, I'm 14 and I'm just blown away. I've never seen a live band before. I go in the show, and the power that was coming off that fucking stage, man. I was just like, my hair was blown back. My eyes were this big. I just couldn't believe that people made that kind of noise, you know. And there was people, they were slam dancing the old school punk style, and that was my first introduction to live rock and roll, you know. And,
wow. Were you already listening to that type of music?
Yes,
or how did you?
We already were listening to the Circle Jerks, Black Flag, and stuff like that. And, you know, but I'd never seen it live. I mean, that's how I became a guitarist. Like, I'm like, I got to do that right there. That's insane, you know?
The Circle Jerks, dude. What a funny band. I remember getting a video from something called H, and it had this one video from the Circle Jerks called I Want to Destroy You. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know who this band is, but I too want to destroy you. So I haven't heard that name in so long, but like, man, just brought me immediately back.
Yeah, that was kind of where I started there. And then I went into high school and discovered AC/DC. You know, and weed. Yeah.
Like many others.
Yeah. You know, and then, so I had this punk roots, but I really loved the energy of rock and roll, you know, and I was also playing the guitar at that age. And I was like, okay, punk rock guys, it's cool and all, but they're just going, these 3-bar chords, kind of sloppy, which is awesome. But I was kind of wanting to go a little further. And so Angus Young, you know, and then I discovered Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, you know, that real metal stuff. And I started learning all those records. Like I learned, you know, probably 3 Iron Maiden records over the summer. And then I learned 3.
Important question. I'm sorry to interject.
No.
Favorite Iron Maiden songs and favorite Iron Maiden guitarist?
Well, oh shit, that's rough.
I know it's really hard. It's like, what's your favorite child?
I mean,
question.
I really love the Paul Di'Anno era so much, you know.
I'm a fan. I love Phantom of the Opera. It's my favorite Maiden song. So
that's good. Yeah, and that actually, I mean, those guys were kind of a punk band in that time. You know, it was kind of punk rock. But then, of course, Bruce came in and just blew all our heads off. So I can't really pick. I love them both so much. And making me pick between Adrian and Dave, come on, man, that ain't fair.
I gotta tell you, I've made a decision in my older years. I love them all. Adrian Smith, yeah. See, exactly. See,
I got his guitar. Should I grab it? All right.
You should, dude. Yes. So everyone knows while they're listening, Adrian Smith, and there's a reason for this. Dave Murray is the bombast of Iron Maiden, where he's just like the speed of notes, and he's got this crazy blues thing going on. And then you have Janet Gers, who came in later, who's great. He's kind of like a mixture of the two, but Adrian Smith is more of the like classical, really well thought out, like most music. I want to say like music theory based Maiden player. He's tastiest.
Ben, you need to do a masterclass on the rock and roll history, because I feel like I would learn so much. Like I need the entire canon of like rock and metal history through Benny Goodman.
Here's Adrian Smith's guitar. This is his signature. And yeah, I guess I don't have a
I love that Jackson logo where it's just like too big for the headstock.
Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Yeah, I like that too. I love the black hardware too.
Yeah.
Have you heard his new tune, Adrian Smith with Richie Kotzen?
I sure have. I have, yes.
What do you think of hearing stuff like, you know, 2 of your favorite guitar players from the 80s now doing tunes together, and like the pipes on those dudes?
Amazing. Incredible. But anyway, let's get back to what I was trying to finish there.
Yeah, no, he always tries to derail my questions. I derail it's normal.
Well, no, then I was in high school, Maiden, all that stuff. And then I moved up to Santa Barbara from Palm Springs. I had a girlfriend who was going to college up there. And Palm Springs, it was kind of beat down back then. They didn't really have a music scene so much. They had kind of a little one, but not really. So I thought, cool, Santa Barbara, which is 2 hours north of LA, but I'm like, LA, you know, that's where I need to be. I just was so young, I didn't know, you know. So we ended up in Santa Barbara, and little did I know there's an amazing music scene up there. Amazing, full of talent. There's so many bands up there. And I started this like thrash metal band. I guess that was.
And this was in the 80s, right? I mean, there was a huge scene developing in the 80s, right?
86, yeah. It was insane. 86, from 86 to 90, 92, I guess I had this thrash metal band. And we did good, man. We played with everybody from Pantera to, everybody. White Zombie. We played with Alice in Chains.
So what's it like being in a band?
Testament and then, Forbidden.
Going on stage before a guy like Alex Skolnick or a guy like Dimebag Darrell, or being able to stand on the side of the stage. Like, do you look back now and say, like, this doesn't even seem real?
I got a story, a better story for it. Yeah, it didn't seem real watching. Back then it didn't. But if you want to fast forward, I'll tell you a good story about that very thing. I guess this was 7 years ago. We were playing in, I guess it was Germany, Channel Zero, my band Channel Zero. Mm-hmm. No, it was Belgium, excuse me. We're playing with Zakk. The band's pretty big out there in Belgium. So Zakk, Black Label Society were playing right before us. Okay? Imagine me backstage listening to fucking Zakk Wylde shredding 50,000 people, and I got to go on next. So I'm like...
Well, hopefully they have bad taste in Belgium, right? Like
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But I will tell you, Zakk Wylde can fucking overwhelm you. I one time saw Zakk at the Hendrix
pretty
Experience,
intense, yeah.
and he not only played so long, I had to go take a piss. He saw me from the stage, walked off the stage, blocked me, stepped on my jacket, stepped on the fucking chair, and then starts shredding in my face so I can't get out of the fucking aisle.
He's like, how dare you fucking walk away?
No, and then when I thought he was going to turn around, instead he just puts his guitar behind his head. And then when I went backstage later, I said, Zakk, how the fuck do you play for so long, so consistently? Because not only did he walk from the stage, play behind his head, and he's still just doing better than any of us could ever do in their wildest dreams. He's not even thinking about it. And he just looks at me and he goes, you gotta do it a bunch of times with this hand. You gotta do it a bunch of times with this hand. When you're tired with this hand, you gotta start again with this hand.
It sounds like all right.
That sounds gross, but okay.
That's exactly what Zakk Wylde said to me, deadpan.
But it was more with a New Jersey accent. You kind of just...
I have no accent.
It was more of a... I don't want to do it. Anyway, that dude, I'll tell you how he did that, because he's the best guitar player in fucking rock and roll today. He's the man, Zakk Wylde. So I'm backstage shitting my pants.
Ingve won't agree with you.
Fuck Ingve.
Stop derailing the conversation, Ben. Let him talk.
I do. I love Ingve too, but Zakk, man, he's the whole deal, man. I love him so much, man. Anyway, so let's go back. Where were we?
Well, so let me ask you this. So I feel like you skipped a big part, which is how you learned to play. Because, we went from okay, I saw live music and I'm amazed by this. And then all of a sudden you're opening for all these big people, you're traveling. So what was the connection? How did you learn how to play guitar? What was that process like for you?
Oh my God, man.
You don't have to go into crazy detail. I'm just curious because I'm a school musician, so it's very square from the classical world.
It's like any musician, you would know. From the time I was 14, 15, I was insane about it. I would stay home and I would play 10 hours a day. It's all I did, right? It's all we do. When you're a kid, I don't do that anymore.
Still all that I do.
Yeah, I was a better guitar player when I was a kid probably than now, because all I did was fucking play the goddamn thing. And that's how you get better, right? And I was always learning other bands' music when I was a kid. I just learned, like I said, all the Maiden, Priest, the AC/DCs, and later, trying to learn some of that Pantera stuff with Zakk, with Dime. But that's how I learned, just playing like fucking crazy.
Yeah. And then how did you start your first band, or what was the process of actually getting into your first performances?
Oh, well, back to Chronics, the band in Santa Barbara. Right when I moved to Santa Barbara from down in Palm Springs, I guess it was 86, something like that. And I was a kid still. And it was right out of high school. And I met these guys, some local show. I found where the musicians hang. And we were kind of in a circle, maybe smoking a doob or drinking a beer or whatever. And somebody mentioned that they are starting a band. And I was like, hey, do you need a guitar player? And it happened. And that's how we formed Chronics. And then we we kicked ass around town for years. And this really cool club opened up in Isla Vista, which is just north of Santa Barbara, actually adjacent to it. And every fucking buddy played there, man. You name it. From the Bay Area thrash metal days, like Testament, Exodus, Death Angel, just all those bands, Violence, so we got to open up for all of them.
So you got any good stories? Any crazy shit
good
that went
Alex
down?
Skolnick stories? Because we should probably
we're
tie
gonna
this
talk to
in
him in a
because
couple days.
no, we're talking to Skolnick, but he plays on a few of our songs on our next record. So,
I don't have any.
I'm
Alex,
reading his book right now.
I don't have any Alex stories. He wasn't much of the wild child. I mean, the Exodus guys.
He was too busy. He was too busy practicing guitar in the back.
With this hand and this hand.
Yeah, that hand and that hand.
But the stories I got was hanging out with Rick and Holt, man. He was awesome from Exodus.
Of course.
Our rehearsal space was across the street from the venue.
And by the way, so people don't get lost, Gary Holt also played with Slayer for years. So even though a lot of people don't know him from Exodus, he was the guy that took over for the Holy Hanneman.
Right. Yes, he did. Anyway, they would come and play down there, and a couple times he would come over to our rehearsal space, and we would party way out of control with that guy. So we had some good stories with him. But anyway, we opened up for Alice in Chains back in the day before they got big. I saw Corrosion there, Pantera a number of times. What was it? Prong. I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
That's the first band I ever saw was Prong.
Cool.
It's a true story.
Yeah, and that place kind of like that venue and that band honed my whole career because I learned everything about it. When we would play there, headlining ourselves, 600 kids would come and full mosh pit, stage dive, and the whole thing. We were just a local band, And then we broke up because we got sick of each other after 5 years, as bands do. Plus, we were young and wild. And then I started Snot out of that in that area. That's another story, but yeah.
Yeah. So
let's hear it.
Yeah. How'd that come about?
Wait, are you from Canada?
No.
Oh,
you do kind of have a Canadian twang, Cory.
Well, you said how'd that come about? I thought you said boat. So
we actually have a bunch of Canadians.
I've been hanging around Kelly and our Canadian guitarists too much.
And we actually had an episode where we were supposed to do a Canadian. I think Paul specifically said we were supposed to do Canadian stereotypes because he is from Canada and works for W5, which is like the biggest. It's like the 2020 the show in Canada, and he was basically we were talking about poutine.
Well, later when you edit this, listen to that. You did say boat. Boat?
All right.
Anyway,
I'm in New England. It's kind of close to Canada, I guess.
So anyway, during Chronics, there was this other band, and they were kind of more punk rock called Lethal Dose, and we used to play with them. Not real close friends with them, but we knew the band, and we were kind of competitive with them. And then when Chronics broke up, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm starting something new. I'm not doing thrash metal anymore. It was kind of dying anyway. It was like Nirvana had came in, 94, and I was like, I'm going to just do something totally different. And I started Snot. I had a couple dudes that didn't end up being in the band later. And we found Lynn Strait, who the singer for Snot. And he was the bass player. He was the bass player in Lethal Dose. That's why I brought them up. And so we started Snot, and we had a couple other members, and Lynn and I kicked those guys out. Actually, those guys are the reason Lynn's in the band, because when he tried out for the band for Snot, I wasn't feeling it. Crazy enough. And those guys were like, no way, dude, he's a total rock star. Are you kidding me? And I was like, all right.
Fine, we'll take the legendary Lynn Strait into our band.
Right, totally. And then he was in the band for like 2 months, and he's like, dude, we got to boot these guys, get a real band.
It was a coup d'etat.
It really was. It was. So so I'm getting ready to tie something really cool in here because I know you had this man on your show. So then I went over to my buddy Shannon Larkin's house.
From Godsmack and from Ugly Kid Joe.
Exactly.
And Wrathchild America.
I can't forget that.
And of course, the Apocalypse Blues Band, now that he's been dubbed the Apocalypse.
And Souls at Zero. That was...
And filled in for Black Sabbath.
Oh, yeah, he did do that. Anyway.
And Sully Erna's personal drummer.
So let's talk about Apocalypse too. Let's give them a plug, man. That's really cool. They got a new record.
Yeah, the apocalypsebluesrevival.com.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, totally. Anyway, so Shannon was in GODSMACK at the time. Or excuse me, and Ugly Kid Joe at the time. And those guys were like brothers to me, personally. And Shannon was kind of the new drummer in the band. You know, they had Mark Davis, who did the first albums and blew up UKJ with that. And then they got the mighty Shannon Larkin on the drums. And I remember I was trying to form this band and I was struggling. And I went to see Ugly Kid Joe's new drummer at their rehearsal. And there's Shannon Larkin, shaved head. He's got tattoos like all over his head, if you ever seen him. And this is pre-tattoos on the face and head, okay? And he was swinging that slink back. And I was like, that's the drummer I want. This guy, he's so incredible. So I got real close with him. We have a lot of the same interests. He loves punk rock music, so do I. Even though we're metalheads, we got that punk roots, you know? And we ended up rowing down. So when I was looking for members of the band one night, Shannon and I were over at his house drinking beers. It's like, you know what? I think I got guys that you need in Snot. And we weren't even started really yet. We just had the name. We played a couple like parties with these other dudes, but it really wasn't happening yet. So he put on this VHS tape, you know, and it was of
Betamax.
Yeah, and it was his band called the MF Pitbulls, motherfucking Pitbulls, back home where he's from on the East Coast.
Hold on, that's fucking crazy. Can I just stop for one moment?
Yeah.
We have David Abruzese from Pearl Jam. We have him, and I sent you a video serving Shannon because Shannon was a fan of David. And I said, well, he's been on the show. Why don't we tell him? Mm-hmm. And I made David watch Shannon's episodes. And Shannon, one of the things he said was, I would love to come back on and talk to that guy. And David sent him a video, which is him looking through a lava lamp, which if you know Shannon Larkin, like this is totally on brand with Shannon, you know, basically daring him, saying the last time he saw him was when he was wearing a boa constrictor in 1980 with Rat Child America, and maybe it's time we caught up.
Awesome.
But the reason I was getting to all of that was the fact that like, you come from a time where with Snot and all of that, he was talking about, you know,
the MF Pitbulls, right?
The MF, dude, I lost it. Thank you. The MF Pitbulls. Dave has a band called the International Motherfuckers. And so, and they're like, he plays with guys from, I want to say, Mick Jagger's band. Like these are like serious cats he plays with. And then you have Shannon doing, with his
MF.
With the, it's so many, and then Candlebox versus Dave Cruz. Like, it's like, they're meant to serendipitously meet. I don't know if Shannon has seen the video yet. I sent it to Kamal, GODSMACK's photographer. I was like, please show this to Shannon. But the gauntlet has been thrown down. But the reason I say that is that those guys, having not known them, are like totally the same wavelength of crazy.
Wow.
Like literally, like David, just so you know, is an undisclosed location. He left the United States. He went away from things. He goes around the volcano on his scooter. That's all you know. He bangs on drums all day. Like, he loses his phone for a month at a time. He's out of his mind. And then all of a sudden, he'll send me a video of him in a pool floating around on a duck.
It's like, gotta be Iceland or Hawaii. That's cool.
Well, listen, I can't tell you. But then you have Shannon telling us that he's like fucking Theodore Roosevelt with his fucking goddamn koi fish and his turtles. And I'm like, and then his fucking room is just all like, you know.
He painted his house black. His entire house is black. Like when you drive by, it's a black house.
Outside. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
in
amazing.
Florida.
You'll definitely know where he lives now because there probably isn't a single black house anywhere else in Florida.
But anyways,
Earth motherfuckers, find it.
Before we went way off there, we can get back to.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was going to Shannon's house and we were doing some beers. I was like, I need some guys. I'm starting this punk band or this band called Snot. I had some demos that I recorded, you know, just with me playing everything, you know, and I played it for Shannon. He was like, holy crap, man, I got the guys. So he put in this beta or VHS, and it was the other three dudes that would end up being Snot. So actually, he handed me half of Snot as a bro. I owe it to Shannon Larkin a big thank you. because he brought in John Ponestock, Toomer bass, Sonny Mayo guitar, and Jamie Miller, who's in Bad Religion now, on drums. And that's what made Snot like you explode. Once we got those guys in the band, it was on. We started writing and playing shows in LA. We took over fucking LA like quickly. I mean, within like 3 or 4 months, we were selling out the Whiskey, the Roxy, Troubadour, just packed. It was like it just happened. It was very cool. And then we signed the deal. And
that's great. And then that brings us back to you getting the guitar, and then brings you back to Longview Farm Studios, where we were supposed to tell some stories about.
Exactly.
That's
a good time.
Yeah, right?
While you were at Longview Farm Studios, you came and played a place called the Espresso Bar in Worcester, November 27th, 1997. With
our Force-Fed Shovelhead opened up that show.
And Seven Dust. And I say that only because it was the first time I went to 2 shows in a night.
Was that with Seven Dust?
Yes. Fish was playing at the Worcester Centrum.
I remember that.
I had tickets to that, and then I ran to the Espresso Bar and had one of my friend's parents pick me up because I wasn't old enough to drive.
I love how they called the Espresso Bar, but
and then I came back to catch
club.
the second part of the Fish set because you can just go in because they were dirty hippies and they didn't care. 1997, while you were at Longview Farm Studios, so that was the first time I saw Snot, and I've had this on my wall
that is so
since 1997.
Cool. Look at that. That's so amazing! Wow,
if you look at that, you can see it's Clint and Morgan.
Yeah, I see LJ
yeah.
on there, and I see mine actually on the bottom.
Mikey 97.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty cool. Like
We've come full circle from the beginning of our episode here.
Yeah.
So tell us about that experience with Snot at the studio and what that was like in a real studio, not a bedroom.
Well, we as Snot with the 3 members that Shannon introduced me to, and we became brothers. We all moved into the same house in Santa Barbara. We lived in a beach house in Santa Barbara. We had a rehearsal spot next to a strip club. And think about that. We all lived in one place, rehearsal, strip club. They would end up at our house. It was fun. It was a good time, man. We were the band.
What a life.
Oh man, it was crazy. And we would rehearse, like we were crazy about rehearsal. We'd get up in the morning and we'd go practice 3 hours. And then we'd go home and chill for a few hours, eat, and go back for 3 hours. We were really into it. And we wrote Get Some basically in that time. What were you asking? I'm sorry. I lost myself.
You'd mentioned that you had you wanted to talk a little bit about your time at Longview.
Oh,
recording.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Talk about a drum room, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so we signed the deal with Geffen. Lynn is a complete maniac. He can't just be in a studio in LA because then you would never get him to the studio. He'd be running around chasing chicks, chasing drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the real deal. So they put us in Longview Farm, which is Brookfield, Massachusetts, in the woods. There's no going anywhere for him. So they put us in the studio, and we move in. We all pick a bedroom. I mean, like you said, Aerosmith, the Rolling Stones, Bad Brains, they all recorded at this place. We were stoked. It has that Neve console we were talking about earlier. And the stable underneath, which when the horses would walk at night, the whole place would shake. It was pretty.
It was creepy.
That's so scary.
It was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was big barn. It was cool. Excuse me. So, hold on a sec.
Yep. Take your time.
So anyway, you want some of that, Jax? My son's gonna drink coffee, like doing a shot. You gotta drink it in front of them.
You gotta take an honorary shot.
That's
Shot of coffee.
It's brave of
Shot of
you.
coffee.
Anyway, I shouldn't do that. Bad dad. It's good?
It's very good.
Okay, now go.
It's
Oh,
a
wow.
little bitter, but then a little sweet.
Oh yeah, well go play Call of Duty.
That's
Shoot
life.
people.
Yeah.
You should write a book on parenting.
I know.
Number one
Have some
dad.
coffee, go play Call of Duty.
Here's some coffee, go shoot people.
Wake up and kill him.
Anyway, so we're in Longview, and it was pretty cool how we set it up. You've been to Longview, so you know that there's an adjacent room off the studio side there. That's the drum room. We set up all the gear in there. So we had the amps, the bass, the guitar, all mic'd up, and we go in there and we would jam, man, and get jam on a song. And the producer T-Ray, who produced like Betty from Helmet, he did a bunch of cool records. He would tell us when we're ready. He go, play it again. No, play it again. You know, the producer thing.
Yeah.
Kicked our ass, you know. We're like,
were these songs written prior to the studio or?
Yeah. Like I said, we rehearsed so much. We walked in there ready.
Right.
Yeah. We were ready to kill. The record you hear is actually exactly how we sounded live before we walked in there. It was so
That's
real.
Great.
Yeah. If you listen to it, there's no doubling.
That's awesome.
We tracked on the right, on the left, guitar, bass, drums. That was it.
Well, that's the old school thing that you were talking about, because that room, so people know, is like a 60-foot ceiling. It's an A-frame barn. And then that the actual drum riser is actually a story above the band, as every drummer thinks in their head that they're above everyone. They literally are. So you can kind of have your separation, and you get like, you know, no standing waves because the room's a giant fucking room. And you could just set up everyone strategically, get all the microphones. And that was a time where you actually had to rent the microphones separately from the studio and rent the guy separately from the studio. And if you
they had all that shit. They had all the shit there, though.
Yeah, well, the label guaranteed paid them to have separate people bring them in.
I'm sure they
didn't have
it
any
in,
of that.
for sure.
But that room, you could record a live record and make it sound like that.
But anyway, we actually didn't record it live, though, because I'm getting to the story. We would just do it, and one of us would kind of fuck up, and just, it was, you know, finally the drummer, Jamie Miller, who's in Bad Religion now, awesome drummer, he was like, hey, guys, why don't you guys all go fuck off? And he recorded the entire record without us, with no music. He was just from memory.
He's like, I know it now.
From memory, he played the entire album like in 4 hours. He's like, all right, next one, boom, boom, boom. There's no Pro Tools back then. Yeah, he recorded it, and then we came in, tracked the guitars over it. It was perfect. I mean, the feel was there. He just had it in his head. The guy's super good and super crazy. So that's a pretty good story, is how we recorded that record, you know. But like I said, I would come in, do my side. Sonny would come in, do his side. There was no doubling, you know, just one per side. And then Toomer, our bass player, would come in, and you heard his bass tone. It's pretty fucking insane. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yep. And then,
can you talk about? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
No. What were you gonna say? Talk about?
I was gonna ask. Can you talk a little bit about the writing process? I'm curious. Like, you know, you said you were rehearsing a lot. Obviously, you had a really great band chemistry. What was it like to write? Like, how did that process work for you guys?
What happened was, my son's singing.
Yeah.
Aww.
He's all hyped up on caffeine now.
Totally. It's exactly what it is. Anyway,
I'm going to sing while I kill people.
I'm screaming.
Anyway, how it was. He's the best. Anyway, we signed a record deal with Geffen Records, you know, and hold on. I'm going to close that door. One second.
That's okay.
I love as he walks away. If you guys go on to the video, he's got his band Channel Zero playing with like Gojira, excuse me. I always say Gojira. It's Soundgarden, Mastodon. Like, he's played with Pantera. He's played with Morbid Angel. Like, every band you can imagine. Like, I can only
Metallica.
surmise.
It's a Metallica poster too. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's that. There's Metallica.
So anyway,
bad.
what was I saying?
You got the record deal, and I was asking about the writing process.
We got the record deal. God, there's so many good stories there. I should tell you that one too.
Tell us them all.
Well, we got the.
Yeah, feel free to go on a sidetrack. You don't have to.
Yeah,
stay
Cory will
where.
edit it together like Quentin Tarantino and make it make sense.
Right on.
He hates me already.
Anyway, so we got to deal with Geffen. They were like, all right, now you guys got to go write the album. You know, because we had some other songs. We didn't quite have like Get Some, actually, the title track. There's a few songs we didn't have, like The Box wasn't on there. I don't even think I Just Lie was written yet. So they were like, go write. So we went to a rehearsal spot. We would practice 6 hours a day. We wrote all these songs, which ended up on Get Some. We worked really hard.
What was it like? Like, as far as the songs, was it like, you know, based off a riff, based off a melody? Like, where was your actual like?
That was actually no, it was different.
Yeah.
We got in a room. It wasn't like based on a riff or anything. It was like we were literally jamming.
Okay, yeah.
Old school style,
Wow.
man. Yeah, and we were jamming, and we were like, "Hey, that's pretty cool," you know.
And I'm
Let's
sure that
vibe on
explains why your recordings are reflective of the live show. If that's how the actual songs are written and arranged, that
Right.
translates.
Yeah, and if you listen to the album, there's actually some jams in between the songs.
Yeah.
They call them interludes. But,
Yeah. We know all about interludes.
That's what we call them.
LostSymphony.com.
Yeah.
LostSymphony.com.
That's why there's like, even on the first song, Snot, there's a drum solo in the middle of the song out of nowhere, the first song. Like, that's how we did it live. Like,
that's great.
So we recorded it like that on the album. So it was a lot of fun, man. We were pretty wild. And then we got in the studio, and I was telling you about how Jamie tracked everything without the band. Then we laid down the music. And then Lynn came in, and he had his vocal booth, pretty large vocal booth, actually. It was large. You could probably park a car in it. It was so big.
Wow.
Yeah. He flew in some girls. This is the old days,
Write-offable expenses, as they say at Geffen's.
Yeah. I mean, they were girlfriends. They weren't like hookers or nothing, but there were chicks that we would.
Well, you had to pay an extra $100 a day for anyone that stayed at Longview Farm Studios. I know this for a fact.
I don't even know if that's true when we were there, but they stayed in his room. So it was anyway. So yeah, he would start singing the song, and before you knew it, he'd be butt naked. I'm not kidding. Yeah, he would sing in the booth naked. There'd be a girl in there. She'd be naked. It was like that. And he'd have incense going, his bong going. Sometimes they would just start having sex, and they were like waiting for him. And it was the real deal. It was like some Jim Morrison shit, And actually, you can actually hear some of that on the album. There's a little bit of action on there. We recorded it. Yeah.
Well, that's actually one of the things we said to Ulrich Wilde.
That
was I'm such a fan of him. He produced Static X and White Zombie, and I said, you have two hits where it starts off with girls just moaning, and every time I hear White Zombie or Static X come on, my mom in the other room, I feel embarrassed.
We mic'd up Lynn's bedroom. We did. Yeah. There's mics behind the bed. You can hear it going on the album. If you listen to the end of
we call this sound design.
If you listen to the end of, I think it's 3:13, you can actually pull it up. The very end, there's girl moan. Yeah, it's real.
Is that stereo mics so you get the full image, or is that just
the flat ones? I forget what they're called. The Z mics or something.
The fact that they were going into a Neve preamp just says so much to the coloring of the sound.
Oh yeah. And then there was a SM57 right at the foot of his bed, like right there.
Well, the most important microphone in history.
Yeah, and they don't even know what it's for, and it's live. And we're in the control room listening, going, woo, high-fiving. Oh yeah.
Wow, that's hilarious.
That's something that you will probably never hear again in like modern studios. That's just like not going to happen.
For sure.
It's just the old days, man.
Yeah.
It was so cool back then. Like, it was so real rock and roll, I got a Jack and Coke. Lynn's banging a chick in there. We're recording it. Tumor's smoking doobies, like.
Well, yeah, and they were cooking you food downstairs because you're in the middle of East Brookfield, Massachusetts. There's nothing going on.
Yeah,
so
we
they
had
make your meals for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane that you had your personal chef. They would screen your calls and be like, "Oh yeah, Mikey can't come to the phone right now.
Oh,
Mikey's in no condition to come to the phone."
It was back then. It was like the real deal rock and roll. I'm so happy that I got to live that.
Right.
The real rock shit. Like they had money and they blew it on us, and we didn't care. We're like, all right, do that.
So if that was Snot in studio, can you tell us a little bit about Snot on tour?
It was exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, there was
the drummer just leaves and said, "Let me just play the live show without you guys and just fill in the rest."
I mean, when Lynn got butt naked we're on tour with Ozfest. Limp Bizkit was playing it. It was Boston, and Limp Bizkit was on stage. our record had just come out, and Lynn's like, how am I going to get the attention here, you know? So there was this girl on the stage that was dealing out some BJs to the rock bands, and she was following the fucking show tour around. It was famous. She'd be like down for anything with anybody at any time. Anyway,
sounds
Did you
exhausting.
explain that Fred Durst took her out on stage like with a collar around her neck?
No,
She was
that's
on all
wrong.
fours. Wasn't it? I thought isn't
No,
that one of the
continue
girls?
telling the story. We're gonna mute
You're
Ben.
off. Here's what happened. Limp Bizkit had this 13-foot high prop toilet. It looked like a real toilet you would see in a dirty gas station, but it was 13 feet high and had stairs that would go up so you could stand on the lid of the toilet, like the seat.
Yeah.
You know, so you're a little person on this giant toilet in front of 20,000 people. Pretty cool prop. And Fred would go up there and he'd flush like Britney Spears down the toilet. And back then, Hanson, the little boy band, he'd flush them down, and the president or whatever it was. So Lynn grabs this lady, this girl that was dealing out BJs
Servicing
the entire festival.
the bands.
And she was dressed up in the collar and all that you were talking about. But not yet. I'm watching Limp Bizkit front row with our management, with Nick Adler, the manager of our band. And I don't know what's going on. I'm just watching the show. And all of a sudden I see out of the toilet, I see Lynn's head. And then I see his chest with a big giant snot sticker. And then I see him, he's butt fucking naked. A dick out, flying 20,000 people. He hasn't got a bit of clothes on. He walks out and he's got this girl with a chain around her collar and the full garb, the dominatrix, I guess you would call it. And she blew him in front of 20,000 people on the Limp Bizkit toilet in front of 20,000 people. I'm in the front row going, everybody's jaw was on the ground because it was happening. She was blown. Yeah. And we're like, oh, we're kicked off the tour for sure. Yeah. So Lynn jumps off the toilet or runs down the back, actually, because it was 13 feet. You could get hurt jumping that far. He runs down the toilet. He's naked. He's got his clothes in a little pile kind of on the corner there of the backstage, grabs his clothes and he's running. Now security's chasing him. He's butt naked. Okay. Yeah. Just got his dick sucked in front of 20,000. And he's running and he runs into Sharon Osbourne's dressing room with her kids. The Jack Osbourne, Kelly Osbourne, they are like 8 and 10 at the time, maybe 10 and 12. They're young. And they're, naked Lynn, all just totally in front of these kids. And Sharon's like, eyes, you know. And Lynn tells her, I'm so sorry. He'd never met her yet. I'm sorry. I'm running from the police. Help. Actually, she was, I know. Actually, she was way cool.
Yeah.
It was actually Ozzy's dressing room. Sharon was in there with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting dressed and like, I'm sorry. And she's like, whatever, it's rock and roll. I mean, their dad is Ozzy. I think seeing him naked,
right.
I was going to say, Ozzy's dressing room would probably be the appropriate place to run to if you needed advice in that situation.
Right. Nobody could get in, not even the cops. It's Ozzy's dressing room. They're like, oh, Lynn's in there. And Sharon comes out and tells the cops, all right, I'm going to have him come out. Be cool. So Lynn comes out. They arrest him. It's a lewd act in front of 20,000 people. He can't just do that. They arrest him. They take him to this little like on-site jail. And Lynn's got all his clothes on now, and it's outdoor. It's an on-site jail behind a fence with a gate, and they take him in this gate. I'll tell you the whole story because it's so good.
Yes, please.
They take him in this gate, and Lynn's got weed in his pocket, and he's got a pipe, a glass little pipe, and his little lighter or whatever he has. And anyway, so it's hot. It's the summertime. So they take his handcuffs off before they search him because it's kind of a makeshift jail. There's a big bucket, like a giant bucket, like a bathtub-sized bucket of ice and waters. And Lynn's like, hey, can I grab a water? They're like, go for it. They know he's a rock star. They know he's in trouble, but they're not treating him like a real criminal. So he pulls his weed and his pipe out of his pocket, walks over and reaches into the ice bucket and drops it and pulls out of water. Because he didn't want to get busted with another, pretty good move, right?
Yeah.
Professional.
Yeah.
So,
Crafty.
yes. So they sit him down. Now, people that arrested him left, and they got this clerk there going to take his information and give him his ticket and cite him. Maybe they checked his pockets. I don't really know. But what I do know is when they took his name and stuff, he said he was Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. So the police report went down as Dave Mustaine.
Oh my God.
Which is amazing. Right?
Everything about that was amazing. That was.
Oh yeah. What a great story, right?
Well, you forgot the funniest part is that it was at a venue named Great Woods.
It was Great Woods, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't even.
But he had the greatest wood of all time
He
on
did,
stage
he did.
in front of 20,000 people.
But so on the way out, they give him a citation and say, "You got to go to court, etc." Okay, fuck off. He's like, "Hey, can I grab a water?" And reaches in and grabs his weed and pipe and leaves.
Oh.
Yeah. So later on, they found out, of course, he wasn't Dave Mustaine. And they got the real name. And actually, he got in big trouble for that. They were like, all right, they're going to bury him. And he was actually probably going to actually do some jail time because the lewd act and then the name and all that. And this is like right before he passed. He was going to go to court, but he never made it to court to get the sentencing. Well, that's a pretty crazy story.
What happened, in your after he passed and in your life, in your perspective, everything was, kind of looking up and up and up, right? As if you guys are playing these shows, you're on these tours and everything. So what's that like to have such a monumental change in dynamic like that? We
went home off tour and we were sitting around. We had toured like 16 months straight in a van. Well, no, we did do a bus on the Ozfest. We had a bus.
Right.
But I mean, it was pretty heavy, man. It was hard. And so we were going to kind of take a break from touring and just write. So we kind of started writing when Lynn passed. Literally didn't even get a full song yet. And Lynn passed away, So, and we were on MTV every day. We turned on the radio, we'd be on the radio. We were doing it, man. We were blowing the fuck up. It was the real shit, And then when Lynn passed, it was just over. It was done. It was silence. Actually, the label asked us if we'd like to get a new singer, but then we're like, no, it just will never be the same without Lynn Strait. Because if you listen to that record, it's us jamming with an amazing vocalist. Can't really replace him, So my beautiful wife just walked in. Hi, baby.
Oh.
Anyway, I promised to cook dinner after this, so I'm going to have to tie this up.
Going for the best dad of the year, finally. He's redeeming himself for sending his child off caffeinated to kill people.
Yes,
He's going to cook for him, too.
But anyway, right after that happened, Soulfly called. They had a tour in Australia with Korn and Marilyn Manson called The Big Day Out. It was like 9 dates. Mm-hmm. And Logan Mader had left the band. And they had like 13 days or 8 days to figure out who was going to play guitar on that tour. So they called me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they gave me 8 days to learn the entire set, no rehearsals, flew me to New Zealand to start the tour, which is New Zealand, Australia, Japan. And I walked on stage in front of 30,000 people in New Zealand without one rehearsal.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. So,
you're obviously a badass, though. That's amazing.
Yeah. How did you get that gig where they
pressure.
just literally said, that's you?
Well, Snot was opening up for Soulfly for months and months, and we became really close with them, and I was close with their crew. And then when Logan left, I don't know what happened between them, but it wasn't real good. And one of the guitar techs told Gloria, hey, what about Mikey Doling? And she's like, yeah, that's a good idea. So they called me and boom, I ended up just doing
It's amazing how much relationships, matter.
And I flew out there and I kicked ass for them. I did those 9 dates in Australia and New Zealand. And then we did 4 dates in Japan. Came home. I thought I was just filling in. And the chemistry was so good. They asked me to stay in the band. And then we recorded Primitive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did another record. I was in the band for about 5 years with them. And then I decided to move on and do my own shit because I was just basically a hired gun.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to write my own music and stuff. So I split after that. But yeah, it was a good time, man. I love those guys.
It's a crazy
that's
journey.
Actually, that was my first, like really like saying that, because I remember seeing you with Snot, but then when you came out with Soulfly, I remember thinking to myself, like, I know that guy. Like, I know that guy. And you guys, you know, you had an unbelievable record that had Corey Taylor, I want to say, on it, right? And
Primitive.
Tom and Tom, well, the first one you did, and then you did 3.
Tom Araya from Slayer.
Yeah, Tom Araya was on it, and it was, dude. I remember the song "Jump the Fuck Up" the first time I heard it, and I just remember thinking to myself, "That's a good idea." And then when I saw you guys live, it's one of those things that, like, I mean, and you know, Sepultura really, you know, always had that. Like, Matt Cavalera elicits a response from people that you don't see from almost any other band, and there's almost no way to describe it. Can you explain what that is?
With Matt?
Yeah.
I mean, Sepultura was one of the most groundbreaking metal bands of that time. You know, there was that whole Bay Area thrash metal, and then you had Slayer. You know, that was like what thrash was. You know, of course, Pantera was out too, but just kind of prior to Pantera breaking, there was Sepultura, who came out and fucking floored everybody. Those first records, Beneath, The Remains, Arise, and then they came out with Chaos AD. I mean, Max, he just set himself as a legend at that point. And then, of course, Soulfly, he just started Soulfly. And people looked at Max as like kind of the Bob Marley of heavy metal, you know, and he's an icon, you know. It was a true honor to play with him, you know, definitely. And I just think that's where the fans were with him. He's very legendary, you know.
Yeah. Well, listen, Mikey, we appreciate your time. I know you got to go make dinner.
I do. I got a family.
You know, I think
go cook
I feel
dinner.
like there's like so many other questions and so much more to your story that we'd love to hear. You know, I hope you'll come back and join us at some point.
You know, if you want to do that with Shannon, I think we were talking about maybe doing a dual interview with Shannon.
That would be amazing.
Why don't you ask him so that we can send him a video and say, Shannon, because when Shannon said that, I sent David the video, and then he said to tell Shannon it was cool, but it's not the same coming from me.
You know what? I'll do something later for you. I'll record something on my phone and send it to you.
Sounds great.
So is there anything that before you leave, Mikey?
Yeah.
Is there things that people can check out?
Anything you want to promote?
Anything you want to promote? Like, give us all of that, please.
Well, like I said, I mean, you could just look up Channel Zero, the band.be, and you can find our website. BE is for Belgium. Mm-hmm. They're from there. And then my new project, Woyote, that I'm doing with Aaron Nordstrom, that's going to be coming out probably summer, I would think. You know, because Gemini Syndrome has a new album right now. We're letting them put that out and let the fans digest it before we go putting something else out by Aaron as a side project. So yeah, we'll get that going. So that's about it for now. We're attempting to do a Snot documentary right now. We got a director and stuff, but it's kind of in the infant stages. I'll let you know later if that starts taking shape.
We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, it sounds
fantastic.
awesome.
And thank you so much. Really, truly.
Thank you.
Dude, it's come
it was
full
great
circle
getting to know you.
if you haven't figured it out.
That is such a cool picture.
It's been on my wall since 1998 or 99.
So cute.
We've both changed a little bit.
Yeah, I think a little bit more hair over there, less hair over here.
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
right,
guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. So great talking to you.
2020-d.com.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's the obvious drug addictions, and those are obviously serious and life changing. And in fact, I remember when I was in rehab, they said, David, there's only one thing you have to change, and that's everything. And I was like, whoa,
wow,
you know what I mean? Yeah, and that's
a heavy task.
And right around that time, a lot of famous people that we all know were getting sober. So fortunately, there was a sobriety enthusiasm and community, and people were the managers and the labels, everybody's dumping millions of dollars into drugged out rock stars. Like those days were over. This was late 80s. So people were getting clean. People were either dying or they're getting clean,